Hey up everybody, my name's Joshua Morrison, director of Johnny Moz's Lessons in Confidence, and today I want to talk a little bit about making videos. So you make your first video, then you make your second video, and then you make your third video, and then you make 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, until eventually you've been making dozens and dozens and dozens of videos, right? And the idea is that your newest video is probably better than your first video. That's kind of the general idea, right? You want to be on a gradual incline of quality improvement as time goes on, because you're learning the lessons from the failures that you made before. You did a video about whatever and you found that you're not particularly good at talking about this subject, or maybe you tried filming a thing a certain way and like the experiment fell through or whatever, but generally you're going in a quality incline that way, right? But I think it's very important to say that you shouldn't expect every video to be better than the last one, right? If you did that, then you would end up paralyzing yourself. Say you make your first video and it's like a 5 out of 10. It's a decent video, right? Well, your second video can be anywhere between 5 and a 10 out of 10, right? By this general logic that you should top yourself every time. So say your second video is a bit better than your first video, it's a 6 out of 10. Then say your third video is a bit better than your second video, and you're like, oh wow, I'm getting quite good at this. And then you get to an 8 out of 10, and like by the time it's an 8 out of 10, 8 out of 10 is like, that's a really good video. It's like, because 10 out of 10 is like a full-on masterpiece, right? And say you make a few videos, maybe you get to a dozen videos, and finally you make your first, like, let's call it masterpiece, right? If you were to top yourself every time, then you now need to just do nothing but masterpieces. Everything has to be perfect, everything has to be a masterpiece. But if you're going to do that, then all that's going to happen is you're only going to make masterpieces from then on. And you're not ever going to have a chance to make smaller scale, less important videos that maybe aren't the biggest deal in the universe, because that stuff intrinsically isn't going to be as good, right? Say you do like vlogs, daily life vlogs, for instance, right? Like say Casey Neistat used to do that. He used to do one vlog a day, right? But like, if he had the attitude of like, every vlog must be my best one, right? He would either have to have the best day of his life every single day of his life, right? And vlog it, right? Or he would have to somehow, like, it would eventually get to the point where everything is so good that it just takes more than a day to make. And, I just don't think that it's realistic to top yourself every time. And you should be fine with making something that was worse than what you made yesterday, because the gradual incline of quality improvement is more important than topping yourself. It's not a competition with your past self, right? It's creativity, which is essentially an artistic expression, right? An artistic expression isn't measured on how good it is or how much better it is than the last thing you made, right? And I used to be like this. I used to sort of try and think it's not as good as my last one. I'm getting worse. So no, I wasn't getting worse. It's just this idea wasn't as good as the one that came before. And that's fine. Not every idea is going to be like a 10 out of 10. Some ideas are inherently like a 5 out of 10. But what is important is making sure that gradual incline is continual, right? But not necessarily, infinite, right? Because at a certain point, you're going to have to bottom out. There's only a certain amount of quality that you can get out of something. And eventually, you'll have done everything in that sort of like quality threshold that all you can do is experiment and try something new. And experiments aren't always going to work. Sometimes an experiment will fall through. Sometimes an experiment will really, really work the first time, but then you try and do it again, then it doesn't really work the second time. And eventually it stops being an experiment because you're doing it all the time, right? And I feel like if you're going to keep trying to top yourself, what you should instead put that effort into is trying to make things of the same general-ish quality, but more efficiently. Say if the first, that one 10 out of 10 video took you like, I don't know, a month to make, right? And you spent a month working on this 10 out of 10 video. I would say it would be better if you could instead learn to make 5 9 out of 10s in that time. I would say that's overall better, because that's 45 out of 10, just spread out across 5 videos, right? And yeah, you could probably go as far as to say, like, what if you just made like 100 1 out of 10s? But I don't think, say if you did try and make 100 1 out of 10s, they wouldn't all be 1 out of 10. Some of them would intrinsically be better than others. Some of them would end up being like 3 out of 10s, 4 out of 10s. What you make has value in ways that you might not perceive, because you're only in your own head. You're not in anyone else's head, and you can only derive the message that you know, right? And other people can derive the message that they know, right? They can only derive what they feel, right? And the more that you do something, the better you get at conveying your message, essentially, over time, right? That's the key here. You just need to get better as time goes on, rather than trying to limit yourself by trying to only make perfect works of art. Because not everything is going to be a perfect work of art. Some stuff's just going to be kind of crap, right? And it's fine. I'd rather just get the crap stuff over and done with, right? And move on to the next thing, because the next thing might be better, or it might not. But you know what? I don't know how much control we have as creative individuals to make the creative works that are at hand. I think all we have freedom over is what we choose to make and what we choose to dedicate our time to. And the more things that you can choose, I see it as like you're fishing, right? You're fishing at a lake, right? And each time you catch a fish, that's a new idea that you have realized to full fruition. That's a new song that you've made, that's a new film you've made, a new whatever, right? But you've made it, it's complete because of you. You've seen it through to the end, and that's you catching that fish, right? The more fish you catch, right, the more things you've made. Say if you catch 100 fish, you've made 100 songs or videos or whatever, right? But say if you're spending all this time trying to catch the fucking Loch Ness Monster, right? Well, one, Loch Ness Monster doesn't exist, so you're going to be spending a lot of time on, chasing air, essentially, right? But say, you're trying to get like a big tuna fish, right? They're quite big, right? And you're sitting there going like, this midgety little fish isn't good enough for me. Chuck it back in the sea, right? This midgety fish is too small. Chuck it back in the sea. I only want a big tuna, right? So you're fishing and fishing and fishing, right? And you're catching all these shitty little fish that you don't care about, right? But you could have cared about them. They could have been worthwhile if you kept them instead of chucking them back in the sea, right? But you're doing this and doing this and doing this, and eventually you catch a tuna, right? And you're pulling it. Maybe you do catch it, right, eventually, or maybe your line snaps, right? Right? And what would that be in this metaphor, if not burnout, right? Because now your ability to realize things is your mental and physical capacity, right? And the same way you have the physical and mental capacity to fish, right? You're sitting there going like that. Eventually you're going to get bored sitting on the side of the river. You're like, I'm not catching anything here. I'm going to head back, right? But say you spent all this time trying to catch this tuna fish, right? And like the line's bending, the fishing rod's like that, and you're trying your hardest, right? This is the climax. I'm going to get my fucking tuna, right? Bam, it's gone back in the sea or in the lake, right? Now you're done without a fishing line. It's broken, your fishing rod's snapped, right? You're going to have to spend like however much it costs to get a new fishing rod. Right? I don't know, I don't do fishing, but that would probably put a dampener on your fishing capabilities. You might not go out fishing for a bit after that because you're just so sick of it. First you've got to go buy another fucking fishing rod. You're gonna have to, you're a bit defeated because you've lost to the tuna. Maybe you'll come back and you'll catch a tuna one day, but you didn't catch it today and you didn't catch anything because you kept throwing stuff back in the sea. And that's how I see it, is that I feel like the fish are the creative ideas. You can't make a fish from scratch, right? All you can do is choose what fish you're catching, right? And you can tweak it a little bit. You can decide whether you want it grilled, boiled, charred, steamed, or whatever. You can decide whether you want it in a salad. You can decide whether you want it in a pie, right? But at the end of the day, the fish is what the fish is, right? You can't change anything about that because the idea is the idea. The idea is what it is, right? You can't turn, I want to make a film about a gangster who's stuck in New York in the 1970s, and he ends up time traveling to 1835 to I don't know, kill like a younger version of Abraham Lincoln so that he can stop the Civil War, right? Yeah, you can make that into a few different versions of the idea, right? But it's the same idea, right? No matter what, it's a goofy fucking idea. If you were to, and all the different approaches that you can take with it are all valid, but at the end of the day, that's the idea. That is the only idea that there is. And the more time you piss about wasting time on trying to make that idea the best version of itself that it can be, the less time you're spending on all the other fantastic ideas that you could have had. Is how I see it anyway. I don't know. I get this sort of impression that people think that, you know, creative ideas and inspiration is all in a vacuum, and that it's all from the brain in a very sort of, you know, free will sort of way. But I'm a little bit more deterministic in that sort of sense, in that, like for instance with these Johnny Mozza videos, right? Either the idea happens or it doesn't happen. Either the video gets made or it doesn't get made. And maybe I could have done the video a little bit better. Maybe I could have made my point a little bit clearer. But at the end of the day, the point is the point, and the point will always be that point, no matter what I do or what I say. And all I can do is try and make as many points as possible in as many sort of ways that I can make it, and try and use as many interesting locations to my advantage as possible, right? I can't go out and try and make the idea into something that it isn't, right? And the same applies for anything. The amount of times that I've taken a song, right, that's dying to be, say, a metal song, and tried to force it to be something that it doesn't want to be, right? And wasted so much time to get an inferior version of my original demo, right? Because I'm trying to turn a tuna fish into a fucking cod or whatever, right? I'm trying to turn the idea into something it's not. And I feel like that's something I want to stop. I mean, I spent about a month and a half trying to turn a song that's very clearly trying to be a metal song. And I was trying to turn it into an acousticy sort of plucky, fast thing, right? And you know what? I just ended up going back to the demo. The demo was better, right? And that's just the case with all of this. The idea is what the idea will be, and you can't change that for anything. That's just it, right? So yeah, I hope you managed to get something out of this video. That's going to be it from me. Leave your thoughts in the description below. How do you fit into this metaphor? If you're a fisherman trying to get all these sort of fish, what kind of bucket are you doing? Do you think, say, if you got on a fisherman's boat, that's like, you know, forming some kind of filmmaking collective sort of thing, you know, or a band getting together so you can make stuff more efficiently? Is that all good, or is that like industrialized farming of fish? And in this metaphor, that'd be good, by the way. Well, I suppose actually industrialized fish farming would be like content AI garbage, really, so that's not good. Same way that fish farming isn't good, it's horrible. So, but you know, some bloke just fishing on the side of the road, on the side of a lake or whatever, that's a lot more wholesome and nice compared to, you know, I don't know, Lidl going off and murdering 20 million cod because it makes them some money. Yeah, that's going to be it from me. Have a good one, everybody. Take care. Bye-bye.